We'll see. All right. Cookies. Get this. Bada bing, bada boom. Up cookies. Do that. That. Do this.
I think my children stole my maraca. They did. Definitely did. I don't know where that thing is. Oh, wait. It got moved when I moved my monitor. Found it.
All right. I believe,
They're coming out with Oregon Trail on the Switch.
really?
Yeah.
Like an updated version of it?
No, probably not.
All right, I think I'm ready when you are.
Maddie, is that you?
No, it's just a snake in the house.
I don't know if I need to check. That might be my children.
Ooh, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
It was not the children. It was Maddie.
Hey, that's good.
I guess she just couldn't hear me, so.
All right, are we ready?
Yep.
Let's do it. To it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Booth Review. As always, I'm your host, Devin Primrose, joined by my brother from another mother, Mr. Blake Ivy. What's going on, man?
Hey, the USA won today. It was
USA,
a great
USA,
game.
USA.
They did a great job against a team that all they were trying to do was just not lose.
Hey,
I mean,
I got my national team hat on,
Yeah,
representing.
man. It was a good game. We get to move on to the group of 16. So,
Yeah.
got a tough draw going up against the Netherlands because that's one
Yeah.
of those countries that knows how to play soccer. So, that's pretty tough. If we can match even close with the Netherlands,
Yeah.
where this team is way better than what we expected. But, I don't know if I'll be awake to watch it on Saturday.
It's at 10 a.m. What are you...
It's at 9:30.
It's at 10 a.m. 9:30 is
Okay.
when the pregame starts.
Oh, okay. See, thank you for telling me because I might have tried to wake up, but now I could definitely be up by 10 to watch the
I
game.
mean, I understand you have kids and they drive you crazy, but it's 10
And
a.m., man.
Listen, Saturdays are my sleep-in day. I don't get to sleep in any other day. That's the deal. Is I sleep in on Saturdays and then I make sure Maddie gets a nap. It's our trade-off. It's a great deal. So, anyway, I don't have to justify my sleeping habits to you. But it was good. Had a great Thanksgiving. We had some delicious turkey, man.
Yeah.
That turkey.
That turkey was maybe the best turkey I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, it obviously it makes sense because it's very expensive. When we found out what the price was, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, that was amazing turkey. Like, I feel like turkey is one of those meats that is very easy to dry out. And so it's
Yeah.
very easy to have dry turkey, which is why most people have gravy with their turkey. And I feel like if you have to have gravy to undry your turkey, you made a mistake somewhere.
That's true.
It should enhance the flavor, not be the flavor.
Right.
But that's my same feelings on like steak sauce and steak. Like if you're having to add steak sauce to steak, like you messed up somewhere.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's what I think your steak. I think you've made steak before that I've had. I know your dad has.
Probably. Yeah, my dad has.
And that's like the first time I've had steak and been like, I don't need barbecue sauce. This
Yeah.
is just really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a good Thanksgiving. Ate a ton of food. There was a lot of really good desserts. So many really good desserts.
Yeah.
We had some game time. It was good. Got to sit and watch football all day Thursday.
Hey.
It was glorious.
We might as well just go ahead and jump into my best of the booth because
I mean,
this,
might as well.
This is it. My best of the booth is the Thanksgiving Day games. Historically, as we all know, the Lions and the Cowboys, for whatever reason, always play on Thanksgiving. That's just the way it's been. That's the way it's always going to be. It's what we get. And because of the Lions being a joke for much of their existence,
Right.
and the Cowboys flirting with that line between relevancy and irrelevancy for most of this century, we've gotten a lot of Turkey Day duds over the years. However, this year, stars aligned.
Usually need some gravy to go with those.
You usually do.
Try it out.
You usually do. This year, the stars aligned, and we got 3 fantastic matchups between teams with playoff aspirations, all of them, and they all delivered. The Lions, they were in the hunt, but probably not anymore. All 3 games were 1-possession final scores, and there were plenty of stars to watch. Amon-Ra St. Brown, talking about the Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown had a day for Detroit, nearly leading them to an upset with 122 yards and a touchdown on 9 receptions. Micah Parsons had another big day for that Dallas defense, racking up 2 sacks, giving him now 12 on the season. And what looked like a potential primetime Kirk stinker early on turned into Kirk Thuggins balling out in a shootout with Mac Jones. Kirk went 30 of 37 for 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick, while Big Mac went 28 of 39 for 382 yards and 2 touchdowns. New England actually had 5 different receivers with more than 60 yards, which is kind of crazy. It's also worth noting, the game between New York and Dallas set the record for the most watched regular season game in NFL history with 42 million viewers. 42 million viewers. And
got to listen to, was that the Tony Romo game? That was the Tony Romo game, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the game between No, because it was on Fox. It was on Fox, so it wasn't Tony Romo.
Oh, that's right.
But the game on Fox, or on the game on CBS that Romo was calling, Detroit and Buffalo, was the most watched early Thanksgiving game in history with 32 million. NFL, I know there's no way of knowing how the season will play out in April when the schedule is traditionally released, but please, 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 give us more Thanksgivings like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic day of football.
It was so good. Every one of those games within 1 score. I mean, Giants Cowboys being the furthest from it by 8, but the Patriots Vikings 1 touchdown game and was close wire to wire. Bills Lions close wire to wire. Giants Cowboys kind of close. It was like never out of hand. Okay, but
the Cowboys were down at halftime in that game.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a great day of football for sure. Loved it. It just was good, man. Like that's what you want on Thanksgiving. You want good turkey, and you want good football. Like your dad asked at one point, he's like, "Who are you rooting for?" And I was like, "I don't care. I just
a good game. That's what I want.
Yeah, I don't want to watch a blowout. Like that's what I want to see." I think it was the Patriots Vikings game.
Yeah.
He was like, "Who are y'all rooting for?" And I was like, "Nobody. Me. I'm rooting for me to watch good football. Like that's what I'm rooting for." But yeah, man, it was a great day of football. And speaking of white meat.
I feel
My
like there's so many ways that you could go with this, and like none of them are good.
Speaking of white meat, White Mike is back.
Oh,
White Mike is back. The electric player that we hyped up probably a little too much on this podcast last year
maybe
has
not.
has returned. Okay. Here's where I do want to preface all of this and say I hesitated to pick White Mike here because he played against the Bears defense, right? Like they're
True.
not good. But then I also thought if Zach Wilson had been in, he probably would have thrown at least a pick. Like
Yes.
he would not have had as good of a day as White Mike did. So White Mike, best of the booth, 78% completion percentage, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing yards, 91 QBR. I mean, he's a bolt of lightning
Yep.
in that I don't know if he's big or little to call him big or little frame, but White Mike is back, best of the booth, led the Jets to a crushing defeat of the Bears, which is what should have happened. But honestly, with Zach Wilson in there, I don't think it would have been as clear cut of a victory. They were able to rely on him to carry the offense, which I mean, it worked, and he didn't let them down.
How many yards did Mike White have?
315.
So Zach Wilson has only in his entire career, which is I know is very short lived at this point, but he has only had one game where he threw for more than 300 yards.
Wow.
And that was earlier this season against the New England Patriots when they lost, and he threw for 355 yards, 2 touchdowns with 3 picks, and a sub 49% completion percentage.
Yeah, and that's one of those it's really interesting when you look at like the weekly leaders that almost always the top 10 are more losers than winners. Because if you think about it, if you're losing, you're gonna sling the ball. Like you have to throw the ball more. So a lot of times the guys that have tons of yards, it's because they're playing from behind.
Yeah.
So that one to me with Zach Wilson makes sense. But I mean, White Mike threw for 315 and they were never down.
Yeah.
Like they destroyed the Bears.
It looked effortless for him out there too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I now, is he a long-term solution? I don't know. Like, I don't think you look at how he ended his campaign last year. What got him ultimately benched again is that he had a terrible performance. Yeah. He was absolutely abysmal. Sorry, I didn't do my research here. I'm gonna look up.
But at the same time, like I remember saying this last year that when he came in, there was an immediate difference in the way that offense performed with him versus Zach Wilson running the show. And it was the same way on Sunday. I have so little faith in Zach Wilson being the long-term solution for this team because of the way that offense looks with him as the supposed leader. With Mike White, it just looks more electric. I don't know if that's it's the same thing with Heineke in Washington. Yeah. Like when you look at Carson Wentz was fine, sure, those first couple games. Like statistically, he wasn't terrible. But the offense just looks different and looks more alive with Heineke. And I don't know if it's the fact that those guys playing for Heineke any better or just gelling with him better, but it seems to be the same way with Mike White versus Zach Wilson in New York.
Yeah, I think it is because they have so much invested in Zach Wilson, but I also think that they've started to see he's more of a problem than a bundle of potential, you know? So here's White Mike last year. So last year, he had 66% completion percentage against New England, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Next game, 82% against the Bengals.
Yeah.
405 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. That was a big one. But then his last game out, which was against the Bills, and we know how that goes. He went 54%, 251 yards, no touchdowns, 4 picks.
You're playing the best defense in football. Well, at the time, best defense.
But like, you would like when that game happened. I remember watching it and being like, well, you know what? Zach Wilson could not have done worse.
But my thought is, he probably couldn't do worse. He honestly probably couldn't do much better though.
Right?
Is it going to be that much of a difference?
I think that's what they're trying to figure out with these two quarterbacks. Is it looks like Zach Wilson's floor? Zach Wilson's average is probably closer to his floor than his ceiling, and White Mike's average is probably closer to his ceiling than his floor, if that makes sense. That
sure.
What you're going to get from White Mike is above. It's further away from bad than Zach Wilson, I guess is the best way to say it. Like,
right.
I don't know that he is the long-term solution, but he could be the short-term goodbye Zach Wilson.
I just think so. To me, I feel like this is a case of a front office. You say that they have a lot invested in Zach Wilson. I don't think they do. They used a number 2 overall pick on him.
That's a lot, man.
Is it though? Like, just admit you made a mistake. You drafted the wrong guy and move on. Don't sit here and play around with your potential Super Bowl championship run that you currently have, because you have a defense that is built to do that. You have an offense that has weapons that could make a run at this thing, and you're sitting there playing around with the most important position because you happen to use a number 2 overall pick on it. And I think just admit that you made a mistake. Maybe you shouldn't have drafted him. Maybe you shouldn't have drafted him at all, but certainly shouldn't have drafted him that high. And just leave him on the bench. Hope that he can possibly come back. But this is the guy for now.
I don't know, man. Like, you think about this front office that they ditched. They kicked Sam Darnold to the curb. I can't talk.
Yeah.
Man, what a day. They kicked Sam Darnold to the curb, and they were like, you know what? Well, we whiffed on this one. Let's take this Zach Wilson kid. He looks like he could be the future. And so, like, how many times can you do this before I understand, like, there's such a fine line between looking incompetent because you keep taking the wrong kid, and there's another line that's like, you look incompetent because you keep not letting them develop. And it's like, okay, so what do you do? Like, at a certain point, it's like, what are you doing? Are you drafting guys and hoping they develop? Or are you drafting in them, and after 2 years, when you don't see it, you're like, well, let's just throw them in the trash and let's see, what we can figure out with somebody else.
I mean, that's fair.
To me, it's why we talk about this a lot. That it's like, that's got to be the hardest thing to do in the NFL, is like to be the guys making these picks. And
right.
And if you're the Arizona Cardinals front office, you feel really reassured that getting rid of Josh Rosen in favor of Kyler Murray was the best option. But this week, Sam Darnold outplayed. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I mean, Sam Darnold outplayed any week that we've seen from Zach Wilson this year.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Sam Darnold this week looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think Sam Darnold in New York would be better than Zach Wilson. And so, like,
I agree. But I don't even think that Sam Darnold is talented enough to be the long-term solution there. I think he was also
Sam Darnold or Mike White better?
I mean, the tough part about that is that I don't think we've gotten to see enough of Mike White to know that. Like, again, we saw him 3 games last year, 3 games or 4 games, and we've seen him in 1 game this year. And of those 5 games, I say there's more good than bad.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
whereas
he throw a lot of picks.
He threw a lot last year. He didn't throw any on Sunday though.
He didn't, but that's one game where the Bears did not game plan.
That's one game. That's one game. He's gonna have, if he stays the guy, which I think that they should absolutely start him on Sunday. There's no reason you go back to Zach Wilson after that performance. But if he stays the guy, the next 2 weeks are those are the tests for him, because he's facing Minnesota on Sunday and then he's facing Buffalo the week after, and those are two tough defenses. So let's see what you got. If you want that starting job, Mike White, go earn it in the next 2 weeks because this is the time.
Yeah, you just helped me make one of my picks because I forgot that he was the starter in that game.
I think that you are setting yourself up for success more with him as your starting quarterback versus Zach Wilson. Nothing that Zach Wilson has shown me over the course of his career, which again, I realize is a very short time. You got like a year and a half of Zach Wilson play, but nothing he has shown in that year and a half makes me think this kid's got a good future. Whereas Mike White makes me say, maybe this kid's got a good future.
Yeah.
And I would rather roll with him. I don't care if he went undrafted. I don't care if you didn't use a number 2 overall pick on him. I don't care. You have him on your roster. Use the better guy.
Yeah.
Who cares about where you drafted him? I just think that front offices overvalue draft picks so much. It's the same thing with the whole Jordan Love fiasco. Admit you made a mistake. Just be like, look, like
he played pretty well on Sunday.
Sure, but did he play well enough to trade up in the draft instead of taking Justin Jefferson, take Jordan Love, and sit there for 3 years with him on the bench? No, he's not. You made a mistake. Just admit it. It's the same with Zach Wilson. You made a mistake drafting him at number 2.
Yeah. When we said on this podcast, none of these guys should have been taken.
We said it. Maybe we should be GMs.
Oh, I don't want that job. I don't want that job.
Oh man,
I'm a pretty good Madden GM, but they do all the work for me.
Who you got under review this week?
Under review. I have it's like a weird like category to pin down, so I'm just gonna call it the Tennessee Titans mistakes. Tennessee Titans mistakes. They were 0 for 3 in the red zone. 3 times. They got the ball within 20 yards of scoring and walked away with no points from those attempts.
Ryan Tannehill effect.
They had a missed field goal, which he doesn't kick field goals, so that's not his fault. They have a missed field goal. Then on the very last drive, the Bengals got the ball with 6 minutes left on the clock and chewed the clock all the way down. I think there were like 2 or 3 minutes left, and then they were going to kick a field goal, and then the doofus lines up over the long snapper and just obliterates him off the line, which, like, you're supposed to know not to do that.
Right.
And it gives the Bengals a first down. They just come out and take 3 knees, game over. Like, it was done. So it's just like it's a hard thing to like necessarily pin down. I know 2 of those are special teams errors, but there's also like not being able to score when you're within 20 yards of the end zone and you're playing against the Bengals defense. Like they're not that great. They're not awful, but Derrick Henry couldn't get anything going on the ground. He did have a monster reception though. Yeah. So he ended up with a ton of total yards for the day, but I think he had like 50, 60 yards on the ground, which is not great. And then your defense, which is supposed to be one of the best, which is one of the better defenses in the league, couldn't get a stop and let them chew clock down without Joe Mixon. Yeah. Like, it's just, you're under review, Tennessee. Figure it out. Under review.
I mean,
wrap it up.
This Bengals team is very good though. Like,
yes,
I think they've been overlooked in a top heavy AFC. But they've gone 7-2 since starting the season 0-2, and 3 of their losses were by a combined 8 total points. So this is a team that could very easily right now be 9-1, or I guess 10-1 because they play 11 games. So outside of the one game that was a complete disaster against the Browns, they've put themselves in a position to win every game, and they've won 7 of them. So
yeah,
I think they're a very good team, and that's not to discredit the Titans. Titans definitely played and gave themselves a chance to win this game. Like you said, they made a lot of bad mistakes, but I think that we should also maybe give the Bengals a little credit. It's not a bad team.
Yeah, but like my thing is like, so the Bengals have the 5th highest. Sorry, I'm not going points per game. Yeah, still 5. The 5th highest points per game offense in the league, which makes sense. Like that's an explosive offense, but
Right,
they didn't
absolutely.
have Jamar Chase was still out, right?
Yeah, I believe he
Yeah.
was.
So Jamar Chase was still out. Meanwhile, you have the Tennessee Titans who are giving up 18 points a game before this one, so less.
Yeah.
Before, I mean, 18 games after this, 18 points per game after this one, so less before that.
Yeah.
And the Bengals defense gives up 21 a game. So like, again, it's just like when you look at why they lost this game, I think that it's those issues that you can point to. It's just these little mistakes that added up into such a big, like, deflating thing that it's like, if you get the ball to the red zone 3 times, you expect to at least kick field goals on those possessions.
Yeah.
And then you have missed field goal, and none of it was turnovers. Like that's what's crazy too, is it's like none of that. It wasn't like, oh, we got in there and then he threw a pick. Like none of that was turnovers. It was just.
I mean, here's
ineptitude.
Here's kind of the problem with Tennessee, though, is like you mentioned, their defense is only allowing 18.6 points per game this season, but they're only scoring 19 points a game.
Yeah. It's definitely like a slow, grinded out team.
It's an inefficient offense outside of Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree with that absolutely. But they also, I mean, they take the ball away a good number of times. They've got 13 total takeaways on the season.
Yeah.
So, which Bengals do too. Same exact number of total takeaways. But
yeah, I think it was more a case of 2 very good teams playing each other.
Yeah.
And one just made more mistakes.
Yeah, and again, like to me, if it had been like, playmakers making big plays,
right.
That's one thing. Like, and
right.
I wouldn't have put them under review if it had been like, Ryan Tannehill throws a bad pass and the Bengals come away with an interception, or, if Joe Burrow was just absolutely lighting it up, it's like, okay, well that's fine, that happens. But like,
yeah,
those 2 teams were pretty balanced, and it was just these mistakes that absolutely cost you the game. So anyway,
yeah.
Under review. I didn't say it was a good under review. It's just the one I picked. Okay, listen.
Hey, under review was difficult this week. I mean, I feel like
it was.
I feel like for the most part, the teams that should have won, and the teams that should have lost. There wasn't like necessarily any like big culprits as to why stuff happened. One that I thought about was putting Lamar Jackson under review for the way he played against Jacksonville, which should be a fairly beatable team, and they struggled and ended up losing that game. Trevor Lawrence also looked fantastic in that fourth quarter.
I also just thought about putting the entire Denver Broncos again under review, but it's like at this point, what do we expect? Like they only scored 10 and they allowed 23 to Sam Darnold and the Panthers without Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
it's not under review anymore. That's just par for the course for the Denver Broncos. It's just tragedy.
Yeah, but for my under review, I went with Seattle's rush defense, which was non-existent against a Raiders team that is good but not great. Seattle's rush defense was a complete non-factor on Sunday. They allowed a whopping 283 yards on the ground to go with 2 touchdowns. 229 of those going to Josh Jacobs, who, let's not skip over this, had a absolute monster day and could have been my best of the booth, and maybe even should have been. But this is a very good Seattle team that is very much in the mix for January football, and you can't win if you can't stop the run. They've got to be able to defend top-level running backs better, as nearly every playoff team that's in the hunt in the NFC right now has a strong run game. You look at the Eagles. You got to face Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders back there. You look at the Vikings. You've got Dalvin Cook. The 49ers, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Elijah Mitchell, like however they mix in guys back there. The Cowboys with Pollard and Zeke. the Giants with Saquon Barkley, the Washington Commanders with Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson. Like, these are strong run attacks, and if you can't stop them, you're not going to go anywhere in January. And this is a very good Seattle team that's got to fix that issue in order to compete moving forward. I've said it most of the year. I said it especially going into the year that this defense is the problem with this team. We all thought that them losing Russ would drastically hurt that offense. Turns out that's not the case. Geno Smith has stepped in and been fine. That offense looks good, but if that defense can't step up and play better against teams like the Raiders, who you should be able to beat, you're not gonna go far in January. So for that, Seahawks rush defense, you're under review.
Under review.
Clean it up.
Come on. Yeah, their defense is really bad.
Which is crazy because their offense has been good enough to overcome those deficiencies.
Yeah.
So if you just clean it up a little bit, just get a little bit better.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just maybe tackle
Mitch.
Josh Jacobs,
at least one more time.
80 something yards earlier. Probably would have been a good idea. That's what I would say if I were the GM of the Seahawks. Hey, maybe next time try to tackle him sooner.
Yeah.
That's why I'd be a great GM. So speaking of teams underperforming, overperforming, our legit or counterfeit this week is kind of driven by a focus on my home division, right? We've got the NFC South, which against everybody's wishes has to send somebody to the playoffs.
Yeah.
That it's like I don't know why, but we're gonna send somebody to the playoffs, and right now we're winless. Like, and somebody's gonna be kept out of the playoffs. So, it just doesn't seem fair. So I want to ask you the question: legit or counterfeit that the division winner should automatically make the playoffs? And we're not going to get into the whole, like, should they get a home field advantage, whatever. But division winners should automatically make the playoffs. Legit or counterfeit?
So basically what you're asking me is that should we go to what they have in the NBA to where it's the top, I think, was it the top 8? Well, I guess they've changed it some now because they have the play-in. But historically, top 8 out of the 15 or 16 teams in each conference. I don't know, man. Looking at it honestly, it wouldn't make that much of a difference if you go off of the top 7 teams in the NFC. I think that the only difference it would make is that the Seahawks would be in instead of the Bucks currently, which I guess that is a difference, but there's only a 1-game difference between those two teams. And I'm not going to sit here and definitively say the Seahawks are better than the Bucks because they just lost to the Bucks in Germany. I don't know. I don't think it'd make much of a difference. I think that for whatever reason, the NFL is pretty well balanced across the league. For the most part, there has been some weird years where I think it was the NFC East one year that was just super bad, and they had like a 7-9 team make the playoffs or an 8-8 team. And I know that there was the year the Beastquake year out in Seattle. That was a Seattle team that I believe was 7-9 against the Saints. That they upset the Saints. So I think if anything, that's a good reason why you shouldn't take the top 7 teams. Like Seattle shouldn't have been there if you took the top, but they went out and beat a team that they weren't supposed to beat, which plays to the any given Sunday mentality of football. So,
but like, how do you tell a team like Seattle, hey, we know you played better football for your entire season in a tougher division,
right? And
you can't go to the playoffs, but the Bucks, who barely squeaked out, hypothetically speaking, if the Bucks squeak out 9 wins, and it's like, okay, they make it to the playoffs as a 9-win team, and you barely squeaked out 9 wins in a division where you got to play the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Saints twice.
Right.
And like you're going to reward that instead of the best team. I don't know. It's so hard for me because it's like I don't know. I almost wish there was like a caveat that if you had a losing record, you can't. Like it's like no. Like you got to have at least a 500 record. Well,
the flip flip side of that though is you get a situation like the Detroit Lions, whose schedule has been ridiculously difficult. You and I talked about this on Thanksgiving. We didn't realize how difficult the Lions' schedule actually is, but they've played Philadelphia, Minnesota, Seattle, New England, Dallas, Miami, the New York Giants, Buffalo Bills. Those are all playoff contending teams right now. Playoff contending teams. They had to play all of them. And so, are they really as bad as 4-8 says? Maybe they are. Maybe they aren't. Maybe they're more like a 7-5 type team that just had an unlucky schedule. But there's another team. I mean, you look at the Eagles. Look at who the Eagles have played. They've played, for the most part, a fairly easy schedule. They haven't played a ton of heavy hitting teams, but they're 10-1. Are they really a 10-1 team? The 11-0 Steelers from a couple years ago, were they really an 11-0 team? But they did what they had to do. They went out there and they won those games. Yeah. So you can only play who's on your schedule. I don't think that I get what you're saying about the Bucks get to play these garbage teams twice a year. That's six what should be 6 easy wins for them right there. But
then if you can't do it and like you don't win all those games, and you're losing to bad teams, and you're going to tell the Seahawks, nope, sorry. I know you beat more teams, and you know, it's like, it just doesn't seem, it's just not fair. It's not fair, I say.
I'm going to say counterfeit, and the only reason why is because I don't think that it happens often.
No,
I don't think
it was division winners should make the playoffs.
Okay, so legit. I'm going to say legit. Because I don't think it happens often enough that you have a one bad team or dud team make the playoffs when someone else shouldn't. I think that it does happen occasionally. It does happen every few years or so. But I don't think the difference between that team and the next best team, the team that sits in that 8th spot, is that drastic enough to where they should change it.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I don't know, it makes it to where it means so much less when you have like I don't care who the Hawks I don't there's no like rivalry in the division.
Do you even know what division they're in?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
But it's because I'm a basketball nerd. They're in the Southeast Division. The division is also the Magic, the Heat, the Hornets, and the I can't remember.
I was gonna say I'm surprised you know
Magic, Heat, Hornets, Hawks,
Jazz, maybe.
No, it's Southeast, man. What are you talking about, Jazz?
Well, not the Jazz. I meant the Pelicans, but the Pelicans.
No, the Pelicans are in the West.
Yeah, they're in the West. Jazz. I thought in my head New Orleans, and I thought, oh, what makes sense as a basketball team in New Orleans? The Jazz. You know, the team that used to be there years and years ago.
Right. Before either one of us were alive. So yeah. let's not act like it was. Oh, the Wizards. I forget they're a franchise sometimes. The Wizards. It's the same thing for me. Like I can get 4 out of the 5 in a division. The Wizards.
Yeah, I just I'm with you. I think that it devalues it a lot.
Yeah, that's fair.
But at the same time, like, is winning a division, like, does that really mean anything? I feel like it would mean more if there was more teams. Like this is what I'd be more in favor of, is instead of there being 4 divisions per conference, make it 2 divisions per conference. Then it actually means more to say, hey, we won, you know, whatever this division is.
Yeah.
Because then you had to beat these 7 other teams in there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, you could baby step and just go 3 divisions each. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know how that divides up.
3 divisions. Not a math. What is this, baseball?
Not a math podcast. Well, I think there's 3 divisions in
I think there is 3.
The NBA as well.
Well, that's because there's 15 teams. right?
Yeah, it's 30
so
teams total.
Yeah, so that's why. Same in baseball, it's 30 teams. 32 in the NFL, so 3 would be odd. It wouldn't be... Somebody would have one more than the others.
Hey, we're all odd, aren't we? To deflect from the fact that I'm that bad at math.
Well, let's put Week 12 in the rear view. Week 12, what's 2/3 of the way through the season? 67% done. On to the best 33%. The final stretch, the last 6 weeks. We're on
the final countdown. Sorry, we don't need a double song.
On to week 13, and I think it's time we get picky with it.
Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it. Getting picky with it.
What a good jam.
It's a jam, man.
It is a bop. Starting us off on Thursday night. We didn't figure up our standings when we were together over Thanksgiving. At this point, I might be throwing in the towel for this season. I can't. What's the point? I go 6-6 like every week in my picks because nobody knows what's going to happen.
And now we have to go back and do all that math and figure out how. It's just a lot.
Starting us off Thursday night.
We can send you guys, if anybody wants to do the math for us, we can send you our picks from every week and you can do all the math. So, any volunteers, let us know.
Starting us off on Thursday night over on Amazon. Talk a lot of junk about these Thursday night games, but we got a good one this Thursday night. We've got, hopefully, fingers crossed, on paper, should be good. Yeah. We've got the 8.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Before we get into all of it, a couple of things need to be said.
Okay.
I think we should talk about the teams that aren't playing at the beginning every week. Okay. Sorry, I can tell you're pretty annoyed, but
you're good.
On bye this week, we have the Cardinals and the Panthers, both on bye. Not really anything influential, but this is what I really wanted to talk about, okay? I wanted to set this up because this is kind of interesting. There are 2 potential clinching scenarios that could happen this week.
Yeah.
So headed into this week, there are sadly no clinching scenarios that can happen in the AFC. AFC, still wide open. Technically, anybody can make the playoffs. NFC, there are 2 spots that could be clinched this week. This is according to NFL.com. They've got it all figured out, thankfully, because I could not have figured this out myself. So Philadelphia clinches a playoff berth with a Philadelphia win and a Washington loss and a San Francisco loss or tie and a Seattle loss or tie, as long as both San Francisco and Seattle each don't tie. Or a Philly win, a Washington tie, a San Francisco loss, and a Seattle loss. So we'll see. I don't know if that's even like really possible.
Yeah.
But the second one, far more likely scenario. You have the Minnesota Vikings could clinch a playoff spot if Minnesota wins and Detroit loses or ties, or Minnesota ties and Detroit loses. So, as long as Detroit loses, then Minnesota, let's just make it simple. If Minnesota wins and Detroit loses, Minnesota has a playoff berth.
Got it.
Boom. So I just wanted, listen, playoff picture, we're just trying to frame it up. We're trying to frame it up, okay?
While we're speaking about buys, like, I thought about this earlier. I really hate the way the NFL does their bye weeks. Because
lick of sense, man.
It used to be, I think this changed in the new CBA because I just went back and checked. But I know that it used to be buys started as early as like week 4.
Right.
Which this year it was week 6 when they started. So that's why I think they might have changed it in the CBA. And I know that at least last year there was buys as late as week 15. And
Yeah.
this year, I believe it's week 14 is the last week of buys. But anyways, you have week 6 to week 14. There's a drastic difference between where you're at in week 6 and week 14.
Yep.
And I understand the need for buys. I get it. But you look at a team like Green Bay. Green Bay, to me, really need their bye maybe more than anybody else, just to kind of get a reset. And their bye is not until week 14, so they've had to go 14 weeks, and their season's done with now because they weren't fortunate enough to get an earlier bye to potentially get a reset, maybe fix some things, get that offense clicking, get the defense clicking. For goodness sake, couldn't stop nothing on Sunday night. But I don't think it's quite fair as a whole to do that. In my opinion, a better solution to the bye would be to go weeks 8 through 11, because I guess we found out last week, week 12, they actually want everybody playing. They don't want any buys that week over Thanksgiving. So do weeks 8, 9, 10, 11, and have 8 teams on bye every single week. So that's closer to the midway point of the season, to where everybody basically has around the same time. The difference between week 8 and week 11 isn't that drastic. They're all basically right there around the midpoint. And that's just 4 games less every single week. So instead of 16 games, you're having 12 games every single week. It's an easy solution. Just do that. Just make it that way. But that's just my 2 cents on all of that.
So, fun fact, the way that they pick the buys is the schedule makers who... That might be the nerdiest of all jobs in the NFL, is whoever is the schedule maker. Like, is that their only job? Now I'm on like a research rabbit hole. I need to know.
Probably.
Who are the NFL schedule makers? So bye weeks, the league tries to limit. This is according to operations.nfl.com. The league tries to limit the number of times a team played the week before has to. Sorry, I forgot a word there. The league tries to limit the number of times a team that played the week before has to face a team coming off its bye. So they like to match up bye teams together, right? The schedule makers also consider where a team's bye week fell in past seasons. So a team with an early bye week one year will receive consideration for a later bye week the next season. So they try to keep it balanced so that teams like Green Bay, next year you might see their bye week fall about week 6 or week 7.
Yeah, but I hate an early bye week. I hate it so much. Like, there was one year where we had like a week 4 bye, and it's like, this is garbage, because now we have to go the next like 15 weeks without anything.
Yeah, but see, you say that's garbage, and then it's like, hey, you get a bye late in the season, you can take a week off.
That's what I'm saying. The reverse,
and now you're like, I hate this too.
The reverse,
I hate it all.
The reverse is also garbage, which is why I'm saying just put them all close together. Weeks 8 through 11, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have 4 weeks of buys on an 8 teams each week. Because again, the difference between a week 8 bye and a week 10 bye isn't that big. Whereas the difference between I guess this year, a week 6 bye and a week 14 bye is huge. It's so drastic. What's the point?
I'm finding I'm on the NFL jobs website. Now we've really gone into.
All right, before we get too far down that rabbit hole, let's stay on course and get a little picky with it, as we just went through the whole song. Blah blah blah. Yeah. Starting us off on Thursday night over on Amazon Prime, we have the 8-3 Buffalo Bills coming off their Thanksgiving Day victory, traveling down to Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots, coming off that loss to the Vikings on Thanksgiving night. On the road, Buffalo are 4-point favorites. I say that's probably fair. I think you could make an argument that it should be a little bit higher. But Buffalo did squeak away with a win against the Lions. So, I don't know. You could certainly make a case for the Patriots. But I've got the Bills. I think they're the better team. I do think the Patriots are good. I just don't think they're in that level with the Bills still. So, I gotta roll with Buffalo. Who you got, man?
We're starting off with a disagreement here. I
know we're gonna have a lot this week. I'm just feeling that way.
I'm starting to feel this Pats team. The Pats team. This defense is real good.
It is very good.
Real good. And the Bills have been struggling. Like, even that game against the Lions, they didn't look crisp. And I would say that Mac Jones in this offense, Ramondre Stevenson, they're starting to click. They're starting to look really good. You got Matthew Judon, he is feasting every week. He is the NFL sack leader. I don't know why more people aren't talking about Matt Judon. He's a freak. He's an absolute monster.
What's he at
now? 13 and a half.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember if he got one on Thursday night. I believe he was at 13 going into that game. So,
man, of course I clicked on the NFL's website. If you just for reference, if you're ever looking at stats, ESPN is way better than NFL.com.
100%.
Just for everybody
100%.
I was close. Matt Judon's at 13. Micah Parsons at 12. That's what's crazy to me is everybody's like, Micah Parsons. It's like, what about Matthew Judon, who has more sacks on Patriots?
Judon, I feel like, is more of a traditional like edge rushing linebacker, where Parsons, I feel like, is kind of a hybrid. Like, Parsons is kind of a guy that can do like everything, and Judon, I think, is more of an edge rusher than Parsons. I think that's why Parsons gets more praise. But I'm with you. I agree.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway. Yeah. I mean, Judon's having a great year. I think that it's in New England. This Bills team, they look wounded to me. I mean, they do. Yeah. They can't establish a run game, and I really think that if you give Bill Belichick a team that is one-dimensional, he's going to make you pay for it. And so I expect to see not a lot of rushes. I expect them to contain Josh Allen's mobility, which is usually the factor in a game is his mobility. And so if Belichick can neutralize that, keep him in the pocket, and put pressure in the pocket, I really think that spells a disaster for the Bills, because they can't run the ball to save their lives outside of Josh Allen. So to me, it's just a little bit of a matchup issue here. And I know I picked against the Bills last week too. I think that was more my heart. This one is more my brain.
I was with you on that though.
Yeah, we were both so rooting for them, man. They were so close.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going with the Pats. I think that their defense is what is really their defense, and the kind of recovery of Mac Jones, that we're starting to see the Mac Jones that we expected to see last year kind of resurface.
Yeah, I was just looking at the Bills in general, and I completely forgot about this, but Von Miller got injured in that game against the Lions.
Oh yeah.
So he will be missing on Sunday or on Thursday against the Pats. I believe the latest update is that he hopes to return by December 11th against the Jets, but he has some kind of meniscus damage to his knee, which doesn't sound fun. So hopefully a speedy recovery for Von Miller, because he definitely gives a certain kind of life to that Bills defense.
For sure.
But I'm with you. I do think the Bills are vulnerable, but looking at their schedule, they've had 3 losses this year. They lost to the Bills they lost the Bills. They are the Bills. They lost
to beat themselves.
They lost to the Dolphins by 2 points. They lost to the Jets by 3 points. They lost to the Vikings by 3 points. They have not, like, in my opinion, truly gotten beat by any team. They've been in every single game. And so I still think this Bills team is just in almost a tier of its own in the NFL. But I'm with you. They do look vulnerable. And it wouldn't surprise me to see them lose to the Pats.
Yeah.
Let's move over to Sunday. Starting us off at 1 p.m. over on Fox. We have the NFL's oldest rivalry, Green Bay Packers, taking on the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field in Chicago. On the road, Green Bay are 4-point favorites. I don't know the current status of Aaron Rodgers. He also got injured in that game on Sunday against the Eagles. We saw Jordan Love come in and look pretty dang good. Coming off the bench, I think he went 6 of 9, I believe. and like 113, 14 yards.
Had some
Had a
chemistry with
touchdown.
Christian Watson.
Had some chemistry. I mean, Christian Watson is starting to kind of look like what the Packers expect him to look like.
Yeah, he looks legit, man.
He looks very, very good. But I don't know. I don't know what what they're going to look like on Sunday. If it's going to be Rodgers or Love or whoever. I do think that you're in a position to where you're not competing for a playoff spot. You're 4-8. Like you would absolutely need a miracle to get a wild card at this point.
Yeah.
You're 3 games out with 6 to go, 5 to go. I mean, you have to win out and have other teams lose. So why even rush Rodgers back? We know that he's been dealing with a broken thumb for most of the year. What are we doing? Like, let's just let him get healthy. Let's see what Love's got. And if Love goes out there and lights it up, then you've got some tough questions in the offseason. If he doesn't, I mean, you're fine. I just think that that's the best thing for this team. I don't know who I'm picking in this because I don't know what they're going to do. And
yeah,
on the other side, the Justin Fields injury is if Justin Fields doesn't play, there's no way I'm picking the Bears at all.
Right.
There's no reason to. But I guess I'm going to roll with the Packers. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I am going to look up okay, so 15 hours ago, this is according to the Windy City Gridiron, which is an SB Nation, which SB Nation is like kind of whatever. So it says that Justin Fields is still a question mark. His status is uncertain. According to 670, the score, the Bears. Yeah, that's all it says. Cool.
Yeah.
That's not helpful.
That's another guy though. Like, what's the point in rushing him back? I understand. Yeah. I understand you want to, like, he's still a young quarterback. You still want to give him reps, get those, meaningful reps early on in your career. But what's the point in rushing him back and potentially doing long-term damage? Like, let's let him get fully healthy and maybe it's going to help you out because you're going to lose games. You're going to get a higher draft pick. So I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Packers too. I think if both of these teams are without their starting quarterbacks, the Packers are in a so much better situation than the Bears. The Bears are so dependent on Justin Fields and his ability to run the ball. And they don't have Khalil Herbert still out, as far as I know. He's still on IR.
Yeah.
So, the Packers, they still have Aaron Jones. They still have A.J. Dillon. They still have Christian Watson. They've got Jordan Love, who maybe he can not be awful. Maybe he can go out and look as good as Mike White did against this Bears defense. I'm sure you would love that. It's like, hey, you'd take that. Sorry, I said that like you're still a Packers fan. My bad.
Yeah. I don't care at all.
But doesn't care at all about Jordan Love. Do you believe in love after love? Yeah, so I'm gonna go with the Packers as well.
Oh, let's go out.
I'm in jukebox mode this podcast.
Let's go out to Baltimore, where we have the Denver Broncos galloping their way into Baltimore to take on the Baltimore Ravens. I guess they're galloping. Maybe they're probably hobbling because they are stinky poo-poo. The Ravens, coming off a bad loss to the Jags on Sunday, are still somehow 8-point favorites over this Broncos team. Continue to be befuddled by this Denver team. I think the Ravens are a good team, although they do worry me at times. But I've got to go with Baltimore. I can't pick this lowly Broncos team to get a win on the road in Baltimore.
They gotta fire that coach tomorrow.
They have to.
He's awful. Needless to say, I also have the Ravens. The Broncos are just sad to me. It's just a sad situation.
I will say this though. We've talked about all year how this Broncos team, their opponents tend to play down to them. And
No, that's the Texans.
We've said it about the Broncos too.
Well, we talked about the Broncos defense, and then the Broncos let the Panthers score 23 on them with Sam Darnold at the helm.
That's what I was gonna say. Is I don't know what to make of that at all either. Like
Nope.
what this Panthers team has no business doing what they're doing, but we'll get to them in a little bit.
Yep.
Anyways, moving right along, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers making their way into Atlanta to take on your Dirty Birds, and on the road, playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 1-point favorites. How does that make you feel?
Angry. Angry. Because how the Falcons lost this week was some doo-doo. Some doo-doo.
So
ball gets tipped up in the air, and Kendall Fuller slides in like he's sliding into somebody's DMs and just like cups the ball. Like just the slimiest little close play imaginable.
that's
Terrible.
I mean, really though, that's like the story of both of these teams' seasons. Like the Falcons have lost a lot of games on close, unlucky plays like that. Washington's won a lot of games on lucky plays like that.
Sounds like communism to me. That's what it sounds like. The commies are trying to enforce communism. Doesn't matter how well you play, everybody gets to win.
I have 3 question marks beside this game because I don't know who I want to go with.
Yeah.
I'm starting to lose faith in Atlanta, and it's really a lot of it is because of their quarterback. He played fine on Sunday. He had a bad tip pass. That wasn't on him. That's not on him.
It was an unbelievable defense and luck play. Right. I don't want to completely take away. Great tip by Daron Payne. Unbelievable focus by Kendall Fuller to get that ball in.
Absolutely agree. But I can't continue to think that they're going to be successful with Mariota as their quarterback.
Yeah.
That's my problem. And the Steelers, part of me wants them to be better just because of Mike Tomlin. Like I want Mike Tomlin's like streak of not having a losing season to continue because he's such a good coach. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm picking the Steelers in this game. I'm going with Pittsburgh. Who you got, man?
Well, that's another disagreement right there. And again, I think this one is like mostly picking with my heart, but also, I mean, it makes sense. Like,
yeah,
like it's not like I'm going out on a limb to pick the Falcons to beat like the Bills. Like I wouldn't do that. But I think these teams, like I felt with the commies last week, that it's like these are two teams that are in very similar spots. The Steelers, their record might be a little more lopsided in the loss column because of being without TJ Watt for so long.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that impacts the Falcons this game if they're able to establish the run. And now that I say that, I'm really just curious to see how the Steelers run defense. Do the Steelers have a decent? Yeah, they got a top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're number 6 in rushing yards allowed per game. So
pretty good defense.
If they're going to hunker down and make Marcus Mariota beat him, it's not going to happen. And I'm with you. Like you brought up Marcus Mariota. Like this Falcons team being 5-7 is almost exactly what I expected from this team. Like,
right.
If anything, I've been pleasantly surprised by the play of everybody else not named Marcus Mariota. I like what I've seen from Tyler Algier. I like what I've seen from a lot of the defense. I love the defensive scheme. I think that we're playing with guys that are probably practice squad guys on this defense.
Yeah.
And so I really like what I've seen from the defense. We'll see. But to me, this is this year's like a free space and bingo. That it's like I'm not counting on this. Like this is a year that nobody was expecting the Falcons to make the playoffs. Right. But it's exciting to me that like we could make the playoffs. Are we going to win a playoff game? Absolutely not. There's no way. We're not winning a playoff game. But will I hope that we do? Absolutely. We're going to get to that point, and all of a sudden you're going to hear me start being like, but they could do it.
Well,
they could make the run. That's just to tell the future. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
It could happen. It could happen. It's not outside of the realm of possibility. Just because
But I don't know that you can say crazier things have happened. I don't know that anything crazier has happened.
It's just because of how close the Falcons play everybody. Like they don't play.
There's no separation.
No. And here's this. If the Falcons do make the playoffs, it's because they're a division winner. And division winners host games. And the Falcons are 4-2 at home. 4-2, which means they're 1-6 on the road.
That's crazy.
So maybe I might be leaning towards the Falcons because they're playing at home. I'm sticking with the Steelers.
Yeah,
I think Kenny Pickett is getting a little bit better each and every week. I realize it was against the Colts on Monday night, but he didn't look terrible against them.
Honestly, the Falcons are a great test because if you can tear up a zone, which is kind of like a basic skill for a quarterback in the NFL, is to be able to read a zone and find the holes in the zone, then he shouldn't have much of a hard time against Atlanta because Atlanta doesn't have, I don't think they have the pass rush or the secondary corners that they play man enough.
Right.
I think it's a lot of zone blitzes. And so, I don't know how well they're going to be able to protect Kenny Pickett because that's not a good offensive line. But I think this week you'll be able to see a decent amount of kind of what you should expect from Kenny Pickett because this is a Falcons defense that if you're bad, you're not going to look great, but if you're good, you probably will look great.
Right. Yeah.
So, I'm still going to go with the Falcons. I'll take the loss if they lose.
The potential AJ Terrell on George Pickens matchup is what I'm a little worried about because Terrell, he kind of shut down Scary Terry on Sunday.
He good, man.
Yeah, he's really good.
This leads into something I wanted to say earlier as well.
Yeah.
Non-Falcons related. This is outside of that. How good is this draft class of wide receivers? Especially you brought up good. Christian Watson. Really if you bring in Christian Watson, Drake London, Chris Olave, George Pickens, who's it? Garrett Wilson for the Jets. Like no wonder everybody was going wide receiver crazy in the draft.
Yeah.
They knew what we didn't, and apparently what everybody didn't know, because nobody had this many receivers coming off the board in round one.
Yeah.
So, it makes sense now.
I knew the big names, like Pickens was always kind of a question mark because of
injury, off the field issues. Yeah.
Same with Jameson Williams. We still don't know what he's going to look like.
That's true.
But I knew about Chris Olave. I was hoping Chris Olave would fall to the Packers. That obviously did not happen. And then Drake London was the other big name. Those two were kind of probably the biggest names.
Garrett Wilson was a pretty
Garrett
big
Wilson
name
too. Yeah. Very, very, very good class. But speaking of Jameson Williams and the Lions, let's move out to Detroit, where we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, feeling good after that win against the Baltimore Ravens. I think Trevor Lawrence is starting to make that progression, man. He's starting to look better and better. I think we've potentially got a good quarterback down there in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
They're heading into Detroit to face this Lions team that fell just a bit short against the Bills on Thanksgiving. On the road, Jacksonville are 1-point favorites. I guess that's fair. Both these teams
weird for teams that have the same record playing.
Both of these teams are
in Detroit.
Both of these teams are 4-7, and I feel like I don't know how much of this is bias or me just loving the Lions, but I personally feel like this Lions team is better than this Jags team in a lot of areas. I don't know.
Not on the defensive side of the ball.
Not on the defense, but I don't think the Lions defense is that much worse than the Jags defense. I think the Jags defense is good, but I don't think the Lions. I think the Lions are missing just a couple of key pieces. I don't think they're that far off. And I will say this: if Jeff Okudah had been healthy on Thanksgiving, I think the Lions win that game. because he's a fantastic. He's a really good cornerback that could have helped shut down Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis in that game. But irregardless, on to Sunday. I've got the Lions in this one. I don't know. This Jags team surprised me against the Ravens. That they could surprise me again. But I've got Detroit. Who are you going with, man?
Same. Yeah, I'm going with Detroit. I think Detroit is, as we talked about, that they've played a really tough schedule and been really close in those games. And I mean, hopefully this is going to be a really good game. Like I could see this, which is not something that we normally say about Jags Lions, right? But this is a game that's like, man, I kind of want to watch this game.
It's a sneaky good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm going to take the Lions, but I would not be surprised at either outcome. The only thing that would surprise me would be if the Jaguars blew out the Lions. That would be surprising to me.
I agree.
But the Lions blowing out the Jaguars wouldn't surprise me, or either team winning in a close battle wouldn't surprise me at all.
I agree. Well, let's go out to Minneapolis for maybe potentially the spiciest matchup of the week. We have the 7-4 New York Jets, I guess led by Mike White now, heading into Minnesota to face the Minnesota Vikings, the second best team in the NFC, 9-2. Currently, Minnesota only 3-point favorites, and they've got, I think, a tough task facing that Jets defense. I think that Sauce Gardner's gonna show the league what he's made of, and at least slow down Justin Jefferson some. And got Quentin Williams up front. I think it's going to be a tough day for the Vikings offense that is so explosive at times. The question mark is, can the offense do it again? Can Mike White go out and do it again against a far better defense in this Vikings team than what he faced in the Bears? The Jets winning this one, man.
Ooh.
Got a feeling, which is weird because I've loved this Vikings team all season. I more so than I feel like most people have been praising this Vikings team, saying that we need to give them some credit. But that's the Mike White effect, man. I just feel so much more confident about this team with him as their quarterback than I ever have with Zach Wilson as their quarterback.
You do know that he had a good game against the Bears.
Right? I know that. But again, I'm even going back to what he did last year, though. I advocated for him to stay in when they decided to pull him and bring Zach Wilson back in, because I think that he's shown enough that he has a better presence on the field than Zach Wilson does currently. And that's not to say Zach Wilson won't ever be there, but just within that offense as of right now, I think that everything just clicks better with him running it. So I know that this is going to be the biggest test for him, for sure. But I've got a feeling, man. I'm rolling with him.
Well, we disagree on this one, too. This is another one that we can just put in that column. I'm going with the Vikings. I'm close to calling you crazy, but I don't know, man. How unsettled that quarterback room is to me is... It just is not reassuring. And so I think that in this game, which it's in Minnesota, they've only lost one game at home. I mean, which they've only lost 2 games. So it's not like there's like a whole lot that they could have lost at home anyway. I just think Minnesota is the better team top to bottom. And I think that shows itself on Sunday, especially with Mike White. I'm rooting for him, but I also know that he's prone to throw a pick or two, and if he does, then like this is a game that you've got to be on your top performance, and I don't know that you can count on that from him.
I agree.
So a little bit mistake prone quarterback. Give me the Vikings.
Yeah, very very similarly to the Titans earlier, though. The Vikings defense allows 23.4 points per game. Do you want to take a guess as to how many points per game Minnesota scores?
Probably 30.
23.8. Not even a half a point more than what they give up. That's how close
crazy.
their games have been this year. So,
But that's also because
they've
they
played
got beat 40-3 one game.
and they've also played some tough opponents. But they more times than not tend to play somewhat close games that shouldn't be close. You look back at what they did with the Commanders. The Commanders arguably should have won that game. Heineke had a bad pick. I think it wouldn't surprise me to see the Jets in a very similar position, and maybe Mike White's inexperience leads to him throwing a bad pick. But we'll see, man. We'll see. I think that defense is good, but not great. That's what I think about Minnesota.
Yeah, we'll see. It could definitely be a game that the Jets defense asserts itself and makes things hard for the Vikings, but I just don't see it, man.
Yeah. I think that's another spicy one though. That's one that, man, I wish they would flex that into prime time, honestly. See this Jets team in action. But going over to New Jersey, we've got the Washington Commanders heading into MetLife to take on the New York Giants. The Giants coming off that loss against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and on the road in New York, I guess in New Jersey, playing their division rival. The Washington Commanders are 2.5-point favorites, which is just crazy to me. Crazy. I don't quite understand that. But I'm actually picking Washington in this one. I feel like this is another one we're probably going to disagree on. I just think the Commanders are. I feel like they're in a good spot. They're winning games. They're taking care of business. The defense has stepped up over the last couple weeks. I don't know what the Giants. I don't know, man. I'm not a Giants believer, and I am a Commanders believer, so I'm rolling with Washington.
Yeah, this is a really hard one to pick for me, because I did just get to up close see the commies and got to like actually watch them for an entire game. I've got Giants written down, but this Commanders team, and like I'm with you that I like Taylor Heineke, but I don't think that Taylor Heineke deserves the credit as much as Brian Robinson.
Yes.
That dude is like, you called AJ Dillon Derrick Henry Jr., but when you watch Brian Robinson play football, you're like, is that Derrick Henry? Which makes sense because they're both Bama boys, but the way he runs the ball is just monstrous. So I'm kind of now leaning away from my initial pick because even with that Giants game, like there was nothing that I saw that made them look particularly good.
Yeah.
Now, they also struggled to run the ball. They couldn't run the ball to save their lives. And I don't know that the Commanders can really stop Saquon. But this was a Cowboys team that we talked about how bad they were against the run, that they gave up, what was it, 200 yards to the Bears, and then the following week 240 to the Packers. And then they come in and they're like, hey, don't care, Saquon, sit down. I don't know, man. I think I might go with the Commanders. I think that the Commies have been on they've been on more of a winning streak where the Giants have been kind of more exposed. And it does, like, I'm with you that there's something about this Commanders team that just feels like they are playing for something. And I don't get that vibe from New York at all.
Yeah.
Sorry, New Jersey, the New Jersey Giants at all. So
for what it's worth,
I'm gonna go with the Commies.
For what it's worth, the Commanders are 8th in the league in rushing yards allowed.
Not bad. It's pretty good.
So
pretty solid.
Top 10 in rushing yards allowed.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
But
I mean, they have.
I will say that the Falcons, Tyler Algier, I think he got 7.5 yards per carry. So it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Washington for the most part has had a pretty good defensive front for most of the season, and that's playing without Chase Young. I believe Chase Young might be back for this game, which who knows what kind of factor he's going to be in. He's missed the last year at this
Yeah.
point, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think this is another one that I think could be a fun game to watch. Let's go out to Philly, where we have another spicy matchup in the Tennessee Titans heading in to take on this Philadelphia Eagles team. Philly, 5-point favorites, probably accurate. Philly, much better record, presumably a much better team. Titans, as we mentioned earlier, have a very good defense, and they also have a very good running back that can, if used properly, keep the time of possession in the Titans' favor, which is how Commanders beat the Eagles a couple weeks back.
Yep.
Because of that, I'm picking the Titans, man. Again, I just have this feeling. I know we're going to disagree on a lot of games, so I knew that would happen.
This is a lot, man.
I know.
This is a lot. We gotta figure out our record. 'Cause right now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're not. I mean, we're halfway done. Whew.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I'm going with the Eagles because I'm not a crazy person.
Yeah.
I just think that this Eagles team is the best team in football. Watching how that defense just terrorized Aaron Rodgers on Sunday night, like that was a masterclass in intercepting a quarterback. I just thought it was great. Like
it.
they just came out of nowhere and took the ball away every time.
I remember posting this in the Discord that despite Rodgers' 2 picks, that's one of the better games I've seen the Packers play offensively all season.
Absolutely.
And one of those picks was a tip pass, which I don't put that on Rodgers. The other one was a fantastic defensive play. But I think when you have an offense that is as bad as the Packers have been all season, put up 33 on you, I don't think that's something to necessarily be proud of or take away that that's a great defense. I think that the Eagles are a very good defense.
But I mean, they just did it against the Cowboys. You know, like I think that this is a Packers offense that is starting to figure some things out.
That's true.
Become less Aaron Rodgers dependent and playing more run and then pass to where there are holes in the field, not just Aaron Rodgers chuck it, please. You know?
True.
Like if you think about what this team has been, I mean, the countless times last year that it was just like an out to Davante Adams and Davante, please make a play on this ball. I'm going to put it on your shoulder. Please catch it. And like, you can't do that anymore. So now the offense has to be run to open up play in the middle of the field. Rodgers throw a pass to a guy that's standing by himself. Can you do that? Here's the ball. Run it, please. A whole lot. I just think that they've developed their offense a lot more. And I think that is what we saw more than necessarily that this Eagles team is not a good defense.
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, the Eagles are 18th in rushing yards per game. So they don't defend the rush fantastically.
Defending rushing yards?
Yeah.
Okay.
18th in rushing yards allowed per game. They are second in passing yards per game, which makes sense. Yeah. They have a great secondary.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm feeling spicy, man. I'm feeling it. I think that's the only reason I'm picking them is because of Derrick Henry. The Ryan Tannehill element is worrisome for me. Because I feel like if there's a mistake to be made, it's going to be made by Tannehill. But I think if you're the Titans and you look at what the Commanders did 2 or 3 weeks ago, against this Eagles team, you go out there and you try and do a very similar thing.
Again, that was so much of like unlucky
To an
things
extent, but it was also a very good game plan because it keeps
Yes.
the offense on the sidelines, which is how you beat this team because this is a very explosive offense.
Yes. Yeah, I just think that the Eagles are going to stack the box, and because their pass defense is so good, they're just going to step back in man and say, you know what, Ryan Tannehill and the best receiver on this team, Robert Woods, go ahead and try to beat us.
Treylon Burks, the rookie.
It's like, go ahead and try. Like you can, but the one thing you're not going to do is run the ball today. You can throw for 500 yards if you can, Ryan Tannehill.
I don't know, man. I feel like Derrick Henry's the type of running back that even if you stack the box, like he's still going to beat you. He's going.
Maybe
he's going
he didn't
to
this last week against the Bengals.
That is true. That's true.
So,
yeah, I don't know. I feel like this game's going to be.
Yeah, it's sneaky good.
I think it's going to be better than it might necessarily look on paper. Because I feel like a lot of people are overlooking the Titans, which is fair. I'm a victim of that. I've said before I don't think the Titans are that good.
Yeah,
and I'm picking them against the 10-1 Eagles.
And I'm a Titans lifter upper.
Yeah,
I am a Titans loud singer. Like I don't know the word I'm looking for there. I don't think there is one.
Supporter.
I guess I'm vocal about the Titans. Supporting of the Titans. I don't know. I'm pro Titan. We'll just
gotcha.
Pro Titan, and I'm loud about it.
Well,
I think they're good, but not good enough to beat the Eagles.
Let's head on down to Houston for the game that all of America has been waiting for. The return of Massage Boy.
Touched by an angel himself.
To the city he once played for. We have the Cleveland Browns head into Houston to take on the lowly 1-9-1 Houston Texans. On the road, Cleveland are 7-point favorites. I think you could make Cleveland like 20-point favorites, and they might cover that. I have nothing good to say about this Texans team. I think they are hot, stinky, poo-poo garbage. And maybe somehow even worse without Davis Mills as their starting quarterback. I don't want the Browns to win. I don't think anybody outside of Cleveland wants the Browns to win this game.
Nope.
But someone's got to win. I'm picking Cleveland. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I think even without Masseuse on the loose in there, that I would be picking the Browns in this game. If anything, I think that he might hurt their chances just from a team chemistry, rust standpoint. But if they were playing anybody else in the whole league, I would pick them.
Yeah.
But I can't pick them against the Texans. And I honestly think that if Davis Mills were starting, I would do it just to prove a point. I would pick the Texans. But not a Texans team that benched future Hall of Famer Davis Mills. So fool me once.
Yeah, that's I don't know, man.
Sadly, we're both taking the Browns.
Yeah. Let's go on out to SoFi, where we have the Seattle Seahawks heading in to LA to take on the Los Angeles Rams. On the road, Seattle are 7.5-point favorites. Fair. This Rams team also stinky poo-poo. And they're probably without Stafford for the rest of the season from what I've seen, which I think is smart. If you have an injured quarterback or a quarterback that's dealing with a nagging injury, what's the point in putting him out there when you're 3-8? You're done for the season.
Playing for nothing.
Let him sit at home. Let him get healthy. Let him rest. And move into the off season, preparing for next season. And while he's out, you're gonna get some losses. You're gonna get a higher draft pick. It's a win-win. Just do it.
That Rams team gets Will Anderson to sit next to Aaron Donald. Holy cow.
Yep.
Although I think they probably would take a quarterback. But
I don't think they would take a quarterback. I think they might be, because I don't know. It's a weird situation. I don't think Stafford is like that close to his playing time being over.
He's old as dirt, man. What are you talking about?
He's not.
And he looks awful this year.
We'll see. We'll see what that is. That is discussion for a potential future draft podcast. Who you got? You got the Seahawks? You got the Seahawks. Of course you got the Seahawks.
Yeah. I'm not a crazy person. I think that this Rams team is second worst team in the league behind the Houston Texans.
I think what they might do is take a top-tier running back if there is one available.
With the first pick?
Maybe. Well, that is true. Running backs don't typically go in the first round anymore.
No.
That is true. Anyways.
Now, I will tell you that Bijan Robinson, or Bijan, is that his name? Bijan.
You talking about the one from...
running back from Texas?
Yeah.
Bijan, he ain't making it past Atlanta. I
know he's out there in the Big 12 playing for one of those teams. Yeah, he's real good.
I know it's the running back for the Texans and I know, or for the Texas Longhorns, and I know that his name is Bijan, and I know that I might get a jersey because there ain't no way that a guy who built his offense around Derrick Henry is gonna let that guy slide past him. Ain't no way.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's future draft podcast as well.
Let's head on up the road to Santa Clara, California, where we have the Miami Dolphins. Actually, I said earlier, a different game might be the spiciest. This might be the spiciest.
This is the game of the week. Not might be. This is the game of the week.
Mike McDaniel leading his team into San Francisco to take on the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco, 4-point favorites. That's surprising to me. I don't think they deserve to be that high. I think this is more like a 2-point favorite, 1-point favorite line, in my opinion. I think these teams are very close, and I think we're going to get a very, very fun, spicy matchup. And again, I think this is one we might disagree on because I'm rolling with Tua and Miami. Who you got, man?
I have not made a decision.
Yeah, this is one that I was like, ooh.
Like, I don't even want to pick because I just want to watch this game and enjoy it. Like, I just like this one is it's not even. Hopefully, this is the game I get to watch at 4:00. Like, hopefully they're not like
it's not even.
Hey, you gotta watch the Rams.
It's not even a nationally televised. Like, I guess.
Oh, this one's not a nationally televised one, is it?
Because typically the 4:05 games on Fox aren't the.
Right,
America's game of the week or whatever they call it. I'm like, I don't know why this. Spoiler alert for 4 games from now. We have the Colts and Cowboys at Sunday Night Football. Why is Dolphins Niners not getting flexed, or Chiefs Bengals, or Titans Eagles, or Commanders
Saturday
Giants?
Colts team?
I don't care. That Colts team is garbage. The Cowboys are fantastic, but they're always in prime time. Like, let's give some other teams a spot to shine because this is a game for prime time if there's ever was one.
Man, it's so hard because I just I believe in both of these teams so much. I really this could be a Super Bowl preview. Like, we could be looking at this Super Bowl easy. I don't know, man. It's hard because I'll just think out loud. It's hard because the 49ers are able to run the ball, or their 49ers offense is so good, and the Dolphins defense is the suspect part. The 49ers defense is so good, and the Dolphins offense is their special sauce. So
yeah,
it's just like, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the 49ers. I think that they are just slightly more talented. I saw a thing today. I almost made it our legit or counterfeit of saying that the 49ers are the most talented team, have the most talented roster in the NFL. And I was like, I think that that's a pretty fair statement. I mean, you've got George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, CMC. Like, what a ridiculous offense that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the 49ers, but I'm just mostly just excited to watch it because I think that this is going to be an incredible an incredible game to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that I think the Dolphins offense is just too too good. I think
They're really good.
most teams are going to struggle to stop that offense because of how it's built and because of the seemingly offensive genius that Mike McDaniel is.
Coaching almost meant like I was kind of leaning towards the Dolphins because of coaching.
Yeah.
I definitely think that he's the better coach out of him and Shanahan.
Yeah. Which he came from the Shanahan tree, so
it's crazy.
That's just one more element to make this an even more must see kind of game. And shame on you, NFL, for not making it must see for all of us.
Hey, I think this next game, which I think probably will be America's Game of the Week, is also a really good game.
Yeah, it's going to be the nationally televised CBS game. You'll probably get Romo and Nance on the call.
Yeah.
And I agree, it's very good. To me, there's like 4 or 5 games that could have gotten flexed in Sunday Night Football that didn't because it's the Cowboys. That's the only reason. Because if the Colts were playing anybody else, they would not be playing Sunday Night Football.
Probably
but it's
not.
The Dallas Cowboys. And, we just continue to get America's team shoved down our throats, whether we like it or not.
Yep.
But at least they're good this year.
Yep. And we have to watch this domestic abuse that will be the Cowboys defeating the Colts.
Yeah. We'll get to that game in a little bit, though. We've got the Chiefs heading into Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bengals on the road. Kansas City are 2.5-point favorites. I guess that's fair. That's definitely fair because it's close, it's low, and I think that's what this game will be. I think it'll be a back and forth type game. If we look back at last year, the Bengals were the last team in regular season to beat the Chiefs, and they were the team to knock them out of the playoffs in the AFC Championship game. So I think the Chiefs might be looking for a little bit of revenge. And I think the Bengals are looking to continue to make a statement and say, hey, we're still here. We're still a good team. And that's why I'm picking the Cincinnati Bengals, Joey B and the bunch going out there and getting it done on Sunday in Cincy. Nice home game. Rolling with the Bengals. Who you got, man?
Very interesting. Also, if I can make a edit request, can you take out my domestic abuse joke that I just made about the Colts Cowboys? After I said it, I was like, that's not the words that I meant to say. I was trying to think of like assault and battery, and instead I got domestic abuse. And that's not the kind of jokes I'm trying to make on our podcast. So we can take that one out.
Gotcha.
Okay, thanks. Pick it back up on the Bengals. I'm with you. I think that the storyline on this game is what makes it so good because the Chiefs are angry, big mad, and the Bengals are looking to still prove that they still are the reigning AFC champs. And it's like, no. We're the top cats now. Yep. So, but I think that this Chiefs team defensively is better than they were last year.
I agree.
Even if offensively, I don't know that I think offensively they're just a little bit different because of missing Tyreek Hill. But what they've been able to do in changing the way that offense works and what they've found in a somewhat of a running game and being able to cycle through Pacheco and Edwards-Helaire has been, pretty nice. So I think that the Chiefs are, I don't know that I want to say better or worse than last year, but I don't know. I feel like this Bengals team is not quite as magical as they were last year. So I'm going with the Chiefs. Again, another one we disagree on. This is ridiculous. But I mean, it is a lot of close games this week, so it makes a whole lot of sense. Like you've got a lot of games between heavy hitters, teams with both winning records.
I'm trying to make up for all my shortcomings in 1 week. That's what it is.
Yeah, and hope. What's going to happen is the same thing that happens every time. We're going to get half and half. Other than last week, where you beat me 3-1 on our misses.
That's right.
And that's thanks to the Browns, who saved me in overtime from not going 0-4 against you. But yeah, give me the Chiefs in this one.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I mean, obviously it's the Chiefs are the best team probably the best team in the league. I said last week in our most powerful rankings, they were the unanimous number one. For the first time this year, we had a unanimous number one. And we'll see if they keep that spot. If you want to contribute to our most powerful rankings, hop into the Discord. Come hang out and let your opinions be known. But let's move out to Vegas, where we have the Los Angeles Chargers coming into town to take on the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders getting that big win over the Seahawks. I guess maybe it's big. I don't know. The Seahawks were definitely favored.
I feel like every win for the Raiders at this point is a big win.
Absolutely. This is another team that should fire their head coach, but allegedly won't because they don't have the money to go hire a new one.
Hilarious.
Which is
hilarious.
Just ridiculous. Mark Davis, just pay more money. Just give more money to the team to fix it because Josh McDaniels ain't the guy.
Nope.
Chargers on the road against their division rival are 2-point favorites. I could make an argument that should be more because this Raiders team has just been bad. They've shown at flashes of talent at times, especially on the offensive side, but they just can't be consistent. And the Chargers team, while it is banged up, I think is better. Give me LA. Who you got, man?
Yeah, same. I'm going with the Chargers in this one. I think the Chargers are the better team. That Herbert Eckler connection is just, and then Keenan Allen had a fantastic touchdown catch this week too, with him being back in the lineup. So, yeah, I think that the Chargers are the better team, top to bottom, than the Raiders. So, give me the Chargers.
And as we've said, if the Chargers can start getting healthy at this point in the season, that could be a team that, watch out for come January.
Yeah,
we'll see. They're currently sitting on the outside of a playoff position at 6-5. So, see what happens down the stretch. But moving on to Sunday night football, we get the Indianapolis Colts heading into Dallas to get thoroughly butt whooped by the Dallas Cowboys and sent packing back to Indianapolis. Cowboys are 11-point favorites. Again, you could make it 15-20, and I think Cowboys might still cover. I guess there is some conceivable way that the Colts pull off an upset because they very nearly did it to the Eagles, but
then they turn around and lost to the Steelers.
Yeah, I gotta go with Dallas here. There's nothing here that is making me say, oh yeah, the Colts good. Nope.
Yeah,
going with Dallas. Who you got, man?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be what causes HR to wheel the TV into the NFL general meetings and be like, hey guys, we got to talk about bullying because this game is, and they're just going to show, they're going to make everybody watch this game and say, you can't do this. This is not okay. We will zero tolerance policy for bullying as an organization. Yeah. This is going to be bad. This I would vote as the most lopsided game of the week.
I agree.
Double digit line is pretty crazy, but then to already be at 11 is even crazier.
Yeah.
But also, how many points would you need to put money on this Colts team?
Yeah, I
don't think I would touch the Colts until they were I would need 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I was gonna say minus 14. At minus 14, I would say okay. I could see Jonathan Taylor, breaking a couple loose. Maybe Matt Ryan
having also running for tons of yards like he does.
Yeah.
Now apparently.
Yeah. If you want to go to this game, tickets are as low as $24. So
Cowboys games are usually cheap just because they
have the standing room.
They have standing room. It's a bigger stadium. Yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah. Well, let's move over to Monday Night Football, where we get another stinker. We have the New Orleans Saints facing Tom Brady and the Buccaneers because it's Tom Brady, and we want him in primetime for some reason.
And they thought that the Saints were going to be good.
And they thought the Bucs were going to be good. And at home...
You know who didn't? This guy didn't think either of those teams were going to be good. Not surprised by either of these teams' record. Maybe I'm a little surprised that the Saints have pulled off 4 wins. That's a little impressive to
I'm
me.
surprised the Buccaneers have been as bad. I didn't think they would be great, but I thought they had an easy schedule, and I thought that they would be better than they are. But they have not been able to do much offensively, and the defense has looked good at times. And I think they still have some decent pieces on the defensive side, but the offense has been stinky poo poo, led by the supposed GOAT in Tom Brady. At home, the Bucks are 3.5-point favorites. I guess I'm going with the Bucks because someone's got to win. But yeah. I don't like picking this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going with the Bucks. If I felt like a tie truly could happen, I would pick a tie. Which they almost tied this last week. It came down to 3 minutes, and Tom Brady has never tied. Which I was like, oh man, now I really hope they tie.
Yeah.
But I will be. I don't even know that I'll watch this game much because it just makes me want to vomit. Because my 2 least favorite things in football are the New Orleans Saints and Tom Brady. But I want the Falcons to be in first place. And if the Falcons win and the Bucks lose, then the Falcons are sitting in first place. So I'm going to be rooting for Tom Brady to lose. And somehow also the Saints to lose.
If the Saints win, they're also like a game out. So
yeah, it's really a lose-lose. I just hope they tie.
Well, you don't want to tie because more often than not, when teams tie, that's the tiebreaker when it comes down to postseason because it's a half game in the Bucks' favor. So
I'm hoping that we can make up a little bit more ground. But
can we just not have this game and just
can we just cancel it?
Yeah, put something else on Monday Night Football. Give us another one of the 5 great games on Sunday for the Mannings to talk about on Monday night.
Let's let the Houston Texans play against Georgia Bulldogs. Let's do that. That would be more interesting to me than this Saints Bucks game.
I do think I'm kind of with you
for the record.
Probably,
especially if you put Davis Mills out there. Sheesh.
It's tough. It's yeah. Well, that wraps up the week 13. Got a couple stinkers to close out the week, but a lot of good spicy matchups really this week. At least on paper, which, last week for the Sunday matchups, we were supposed to have a bunch of stinkers, and it turned out we had a lot of really good games. So
yeah,
hopefully this week is not the reverse of that, where we have a bunch of good games on paper and they all stink. Or are lopsided. I'm just hoping for good football. I want to see good football. I want to see good competitive football, and that's my hope down the stretch and as we approach the postseason, because I want the best teams to make the postseason. But as always, we appreciate you listening, tuning in. If you're on YouTube watching us, thanks for hanging out. If you would go ahead and click that subscribe button. That way every single time we go live. We're here every Tuesday night. If you're listening to us, maybe pop into YouTube every once in a while, see what's going on, see how the sausage is made. But we appreciate you listening. As always, you can follow our socials, but we don't use them, so do that at your own risk. But I think that's that.
That's that. See, that time you didn't, as always.
Yeah,
always, that's that. I think.